Alright everyone, so this is the first video that I'm doing since I've been back from my 7-month overlanding trip. The shock of coming back was a little bit more than I expected, so for that reason I've literally pretty much done nothing. I did have to take all the stuff off my roof rack because I needed to get in the garage, and I'm going to show that stuff because this video is going to be about dead weight. Stuff that I brought that I maybe shouldn't have, or that I intended on using and not using, and things that most likely I will not be bringing on any long trips going forward unless I have a more definitive plan and I know I'm going to be using these products. It's actually quite a bit of weight. I've been adding it up in my head, and just the first few things I'm going to show you, you're going to be like, wow, you drug that around for 29,000 miles in 7 months. But keep in mind, I did live in this Jeep for 7 months with everything I'm about to show you. So whatever I clear out from here on forward is just going to be more room. I'm not replacing it with more stuff. I'm going to do another video about things that maybe I would change or that I would have brought differently, which there isn't a whole lot. So whatever I remove from what I'm going to show you in this video is just going to be less weight and more room that I'm going to have to live in the Jeep the next time. But it might be stuff that I bring on shorter trips if I know that it's definitely going to be used. So without any more delay, let's get right to it. So here is everything that I was carrying on the roof. Now that I have it laid out, it does look like quite a bit. It did have a certain profile up there. It didn't look too overbearing, but it was a lot of weight. You didn't see the gas cans, mostly because those were behind the deflector net that I had made. You've got the 3 storage boxes. My saddlebags were on the side, and then the tent was hanging on the back. This was in between the boxes. And then you had these treads that I also carried. I'm not going to go through everything that was in the boxes. I'm only going to show you what I am not going to carry next time for a trip like this, and go over the reasons why I wouldn't and why I was going to bring it in the first place. So if you want to see everything that was in these boxes, then I have earlier videos that you can do that with, but I'm not going to go over that here. Okay, so to start with, these small treads I purchased before I purchased the larger ones. I decided to bring all 4 because then I could use them under all 4 wheels. However, I was never in a situation where I needed them, but you still need recovery gear. The only reason I'm not going to take these is because at Overland West I bought these. They're called Go Treads. These smaller ones I'm going to leave a link to though for Amazon. They could come in pretty handy, and I did use them as leveling. But these here can be used for leveling. They're also a ramp, and were built for semis. They're great for overland vehicles, and they're much more useful than the smaller ones. More expensive, heavier, but I will talk more about these in the video where I show the items that I really liked having and that I found pretty useful. So that's the reason I'm not going to bring the smaller ones. The large ones I am. The gas. So I actually carried these 2.5-gallon containers, 2 of them up top empty until I got to Canada. And then once I was there, I decided to go ahead and fill these up. So I carried them full up on my roof rack, added quite a bit more weight. I did put them to the front, but I only needed, I would say, less than half of a gallon the entire trip that I was out there overlanding. So for that reason, I will probably scale back down to 1. My 5-gallon can is that I have all the time on the rear is going to get me out of most jams. So unless I know I'm going deep into no man's land where I'm not going to come out for a couple of weeks and I'm going to want to venture around without a gas station, that's the only time I'm really going to need more than 5 gallons worth of gas. And it happened on the Dempster Highway where I needed some. I'm not going to get into all the details, but there were a lot of different factors that went into play as to why I needed it between gas stations. But under normal circumstances, I would have never needed it, and I could have just tapped into the 5 gallons that was on the back. I ended up using it out of here just because it was easier to get it off the roof than to take it off the tailgate. So for that reason, probably not going to bring either one. Maybe I'll bring one of them. The big item, and I'll fast forward here till I get to that. This entire box is probably not going to come next time because I don't need any of the contents. So in here, I won't get into the little stuff. I had an extra tarp, which I probably will bring, compression bag. So unfortunately, before I left, my mom made me, out of cotton duck material, surplus military canvas, a full-on tent that went on the rear hatch. Now in my videos I showed a smaller one that was just like a rainfly wind protection canopy. This here is a full-on tent that completely wraps around and would be more bug-proof, and that I could probably leave up overnight if I'm in an area that I'm not worried about wild animals. And I never got around to setting this up. You see the size of this thing, and I will weigh everything. It does take up quite a bit of room, and on top of this there's other parts that I need to take out of the canvas bags, some of which I'll use for other things. But so that here I will weigh and let you know how much that was. The other big thing, and if it wasn't for my girlfriend when she came out and suggesting that we use this, was my inflatable kayak. So between those two things is the only reason that I carried this entire box around and the stuff that's in it. All back. So here's the inflatable kayak. I got one use out of it. I really thought that I would be going places that I would be motivated to get the kayak out, because when I was on a trip with my brother-in-law, I came across some lakes, and if I had a kayak, I would definitely go out there. Well, truth be told, I got lazy, and I didn't want to inflate it, deflate it, do all that. I could have went kayaking around the Pingos in the Arctic Ocean. I could have done some beautiful lakes, but I was definitely a lot more motivated in my head than when I actually got to those situations. So for that reason, unless I'm going somewhere with my girlfriend and we definitely want to go out on the lake or wherever we're at, I am not going to bring that. So you've got your inflatable seat, and then with that I have the paddles and the poles that are in the saddlebags. So this entire container will not be coming on the next trip, and that will be a lot less weight with just those things. So I'll put that all back together, I'll weigh it, and I'll let you know what that came out to. Inside this one, it gets worse with the kayak, because tarps you can always use. I brought not only a life vest for me, which is this good one here, but I brought a second smaller one for my girlfriend in case we did end up going out, which we did. So I had to have two life vests, and then with that came the pump to pump it up. So that's more room right there. The rest of this in here I'm not going to show you, but this is all full of fluids and Jeep parts that I thought I might need, like hoses, belts, and every type of fluid that we pretty much need. Thermostat, and just basic little stuff like that. So this is still going to stay, but you just saw what I took out of it. Now I can put stuff that was inside the Jeep that I didn't use quite a bit and put that in here, and then it'll be accessible from the roof. So that rest of that box is going to stay. And then in this one, this is the box that I had the problem with. I actually drug around my Mr. Heater Buddy, which weighs a good 10 pounds. As you can see, takes up quite a bit of weight. I never use this. If I got cold, I would just turn on the stove, my Coleman stove, warm up a little bit, put my feet over it if my feet were cold, and then crawl into the sleeping bag. But I never felt like I really needed this until I got to North Dakota, where I sat and lived in my Jeep for 6 weeks straight. At that second week point, I decided I needed to get this out. Found that this container had 3 inches of water in it, and that was the first time that any of these containers had water in them my entire trip. So this was sitting in it, so I'm pretty sure that something was ruined. I'm gonna have to take it apart and see what rusted and get this thing back working. So when I did need it, I couldn't use it. But the real thing about this is I just don't need this unless I'm going back to North Dakota, where it was actually 0 Fahrenheit and I don't have access to electricity, which is the only place that I did. I'm not going to be bringing this again. I'll bring it on camping trips because it's going to be really useful for when my girlfriend and I sleep in the Jeep. But for an overland trip, even when I was in Colorado sleeping in the snow with the Jeep, snow all around 10 feet high, I still didn't use this. So for that reason, it was a comfort thing that I'm just not going to need. So that's more weight. And then I actually had extra canisters for that I could probably pare down, because I was bringing at all times like 4 canisters in case I was going to use that, since that does use a lot more propane than the regular Coleman tank. or stove, I could scale down on that as well. So the other thing that I brought was, now some of this clothing I could actually use. They were in vacuum bags, which actually didn't work very well, but they did keep my stuff dry, even though this thing was flooded. I brought extra clothes because I was visiting friends, and I thought, well, maybe we're going to go out to dinner or something, and I don't want to look kind of like this. So I brought an extra pair of jeans. I think I brought a pair of boots or sneakers or something to throw on, button-up shirts, just a couple, but I didn't use any of it. So that's extra weight that I'll pull out. I'll weigh that as well. And it took up extra space. So without the extra clothes, and there is a lot in there, I had to bring summer clothes, winter clothes, and I pretty much used all of that. I just didn't use my, well, call it casual clothes. So with the heater out, with the extra clothes out, that's going to open up a third of this container. So between this and this, I've got a full extra container of everything that I'm not going to take, and then I'm going to be minus one container because I'm not going to have to fill up the other one. So as you can see right there, I am definitely lightening the load on the roof, which was ridiculous, I know, but I didn't know what I was doing. So not that I didn't know what I was doing, I knew what I was bringing, but I didn't know where I was going. I didn't know if I was going to be moving around all the time, which I was, or staying put for a long period of time where I'd actually be able to enjoy this. And the latter never happened, and it probably will never happen. So before I move on to the inside of the Jeep, let me show you these other things. So because my girlfriend was supposed to come out a couple of times, I ended up canceling the second trip because I came home early, but I actually brought a second camping chair. We didn't even use it the one time she did come out, so I carry this around for no reason on the roof. Then on top of that, this one I was debating on bringing, and I ended up bringing it. It's a 4-person tent because I thought, well, maybe I'll get sick and tired of living in the Jeep. I can pop open the tent and have a lot more space, and or use that to put all the stuff from inside the Jeep into the tent when my girlfriend was with me, and we'd have more room inside. But I never did either. Tent was never opened up, never even looked inside this thing, so I carried this around for the entire trip for no reason. These saddlebags, this one here just has my half tent in it, the one I talked about earlier. This is the rain shelter. It rolls up nicely and fits right inside here. This I definitely will bring again, and I did like this saddlebag feature where it just hung off the side. It made it easy to get the tent in and out, so that will stay. This here, I'm probably going to bring this saddlebag as well, but inside here, I won't even bother opening it, are my kayak poles. So in addition to the kayak poles, I've also got tent poles in here, which are used with the half tent and also for tarps. So for that reason, I'll probably bring both these bags still, but I'll take the kayak poles out and just make sure those are weighed in with everything, even though they're aluminum and don't weigh much. So that's pretty much it for everything on the roof. So that was just up top. Now what I need to do is clean out my Jeep, which I won't put you through, and I have not touched anything inside other than getting my tools out, and I'll show you exactly what I would leave behind from inside there as well. Okay, so first thing, oh, and don't mind this mess, it is not how it normally looked when I decided to leave North Dakota. I left in a hurry, I crammed everything in here, just threw everything in the back. It looks like a bomb went off, and that's why it looks that way. If you've seen my videos, it normally doesn't look that way. So first things first, 6-gallon water jug. I brought 2 because I kept hearing you had to have enough water to go into the middle of nowhere, Canada, Utah, New Mexico. Long story short, with the 6 gallons that I've got and with the other small containers that I would fill with water at the same time and then put this water in those smaller containers to use inside the cab, I didn't ever need a second one. I gave that away to my cousin in North Dakota when we were working together, and I had this jammed underneath the back of the passenger seat, so it was kind of out of the way, but look at the size that this takes up of volume. And it doesn't weigh a whole lot, but I'll still weigh it. But for the space, it was kind of ridiculous. Never filled it up, never used it. It was a cautionary measure. Not going to do that again. So as you can see in the back here, I have 1, 2, 3 of these Ziploc containers as well as this organizational one. I started out thinking I was going to bring 4. I pared it down to 3, but with some of the other things that I'm going to get into as to what I don't need to carry, I think I can get this down to 2. But by the way, these Ziploc containers, these lids that have a seal around them are great. So I'm going to talk about these in my upcoming video, what I do like. But so this, I'm going to try to calculate the weight that I would carry in something like this with the food that I wouldn't bring next time. And you can see the volume that it takes up. So that will definitely be something that's not going to go even on a long extended trip. I'll just use the 2 and the organizational compartment box that I have there as well. So one of those would definitely go. So some of the items that I carried didn't weigh a lot, but it took up volume, as I had plates and little bowls I thought I would use. But in reality, I literally did everything out of this one pot. I am the simple overlander. I would boil my water in this, eat out of this, clean it out, and use this. I never once put it in a disposable container, or I just ate it right out of the can, to be honest. And I mentioned that in quite a few of my videos. So between stuff like this and then utensils for the other pan, to go with the other pan to make eggs or whatever else I thought I'd make, I didn't need any of this. Even the little pan that I did have, frying pan, I left that at the Signpost Forest in Watson Lake, Canada, because I wanted to leave a sign there, and the pan I wasn't using. So I carved some stuff into it. I did a video on that, and so again, I use this and not this. So because of that, with the volume that this took up, as well as some other little things that I won't get into, and a bunch of canned soup that I carried with me, probably way too much. I would say I had at least 10 to 15 pounds of extra canned soup throughout the vehicle and in one of those Ziploc containers that I never used. I was never anywhere long enough that I was ever going to go hungry and that I would have to be in a position that I couldn't be restocked. There was always a store, a grocery store, a Walmart, or whatever within a day's drive, or that I was going to drive by. So the next time I go, I'm just going to say that I brought at least 15 pounds of extra food with me all the time. I should probably say 20. Okay, so this next item was something that I had stored under here the whole time, and it is a full-size pop-up shelter so that you could change or shower in, and it has the tent stakes in it. And I mean, it wasn't really in my way, but I did have to move it on occasion, and it was dead weight. Never used this one time. I brought it because a buddy of mine, Super Wheelie Overland, he actually made use of his, but he did overland, and he does overland in a TJ, so there's literally no room inside to do anything. So if he's in a populated area, he's got to pop this up and change or shower, whereas I was able to clean up in the back of this as well as change, and I never needed this, or I'd be out in the middle of nowhere and I could just do it outside with nobody seeing me. So for that reason, I am not even going to think about bringing this again. Something else, this one was kind of dumb on my part. There was really no reason to bring this, but I had a full-size golf umbrella. I thought, if I'm somewhere where it's downpouring, I might be able to actually use this when I'm going from one place to another. To be honest, every time it rained, I just walked out in the rain. I could always dry off. Didn't take up much room, but it did, weighs a pound or two. But kind of a thing that's a pain still to bring around with you when you're trying to get other things back in this cubby hole. So that one was probably my silliest bring along. This box here, I don't even know what's in it, to be honest. It's heavy. It's like 7 pounds heavy. It was in the back of this. I never went into it. I think it's full of batteries, but I don't even know since I never used it. So I could definitely leave this behind next time. But I've got an extra LED light, which I never use, so that's dead weight. I brought a lot of batteries because I have a lot of battery-powered stuff. This takes C batteries. I had quite a few lights that took AA's and AAA's, and to be honest, I hardly used any of them. So I think in the future I'll have 1 or 2 backup battery lights with a few batteries. But this is batteries, and I think this one here is also batteries, and something else is in there. Lesson learned, and just other miscellaneous stuff that I don't even need to talk about and shouldn't even be in there. So that is a lot of room right there for something that I could put inside this storage box and access while I'm in the inside. So that's everything in the storage boxes. I had my clothing in the front one. I still need to weigh all that of stuff that I didn't wear. And now the only thing to do is to dig out what's behind the seats yet that I haven't got to. All right, so I have went through just about everything. I didn't nitpick through every storage compartment or every container, but I'm pretty sure I've covered about 90% of everything that I've carried. And the grand total of all the weight came to 200 pounds, which was kind of surprising to me. I thought it would be a lot more, but I'll throw in an extra 20 pounds, say 220, so by the time I'm completely done emptying this thing out, I'll reduce probably about another 20 pounds worth of stuff. Now, most of that weight, 130 pounds of it, came from up top. And I already knew that I was running heavy up there, but to take 130 pounds off the roof is going to make a huge difference. And there were a couple of times where I got into too much of a lean that I really wasn't comfortable, and I'll show a clip of that real quick. And that was early on in my trip where I definitely leaned a lot more than I thought I would when I was going through a mud hole. But for those reasons, I'm really happy to take 130 pounds off the roof. 30 pounds of that is going to be my high lift jack. That is coming off, and it is staying off. I don't think I'm ever going to need it. I've never used it. I don't think I'm going to put myself in a position where I'm going to need it when I'm alone. And if I'm with somebody else, it's just going to be either something that we're going to have to get creative with, or it'll be an expensive recovery. But I'm just tired of carrying that thing around. It is 30 pounds of dead weight. I know in another video some people were trying to talk me into keeping it, but I just don't think it's worth it. I'm not really putting this thing in very many positions like I used to, where I might actually need a high lift jack. And I know it would be good to have when I am out in the middle of nowhere, but I do have my winch, I do have other recovery gear, and it's just, the juice isn't worth the squeeze, as my friend would say. It's coming off, it's staying off, so that's 30 pounds right there. So that's where I'm at. If you've seen anything in this video or in my other videos that you think that maybe I could do without, or that I could lighten the load with, feel free to let me know. It's something that I'll consider going forward. But 200 pounds for sure. Thank you for watching. I do have other videos coming up. I am going to point out the items that I really liked having on my Overland trip, and that I thought would, and that I think will be useful for other people. I'm also doing a review of a 12-inch Auxbeam Lightbar. I'm kind of excited about doing that one, and I'll get into the details of that. And then I do need to do an overall cost video. That's taken me a bit more time. I need to print out all my credit card statements, add it all up, categorize everything, and I know some people are really eager to see, especially on the gas side, what everything costs. So that is coming. Just give me some time. I'm still trying to get my head on straight from being back. I'm starting to get a bit more motivated here, and no sympathy. I'm not asking for that. But it was a shock coming back after living on the road for 7 months, and realizing what I got to do now that I'm back to put myself in a position so that I can overland more and make this more of a lifestyle rather than just the chance of a lifetime. So that's where I'm at. That's where I'm going, and stay tuned. Thanks for watching. I do have links to a lot of the items that I used on my trip down below, so check those out, and talk to you next time.